You know, the longer I spend time in Congress, Mr. Speaker, the more I realize that in America, change comes from the states. It comes from the people. That's how we got child labor laws. That's how we got women's suffrage. That's how we got direct election of U.S. senators. And now so too with our draconian, obsolete, and failed marijuana laws. Look what's happening out in America. 18 states plus Washington, D.C., have now passed laws allowing adult use of marijuana. In other words, they've accepted the anti-prohibition principle that's in our Constitution. It's not that alcohol is so great for everybody in every circumstance, or marijuana is so great for everybody in every circumstance. It's that criminal prohibition and criminalization of large parts of our own population doesn't work. So it's legal in 18 states. In 27 states, it's been decriminalized. In a majority of the states, it's no longer criminal. And in 36 states, the vast majority of America, more than 2/3 of the states, medical use of marijuana has been approved. In other words, it is legal in the vast majority of states of the country to use marijuana for medicinal purposes. What a massive outbreak of common sense in America against the GOP's failed authoritarian war on marijuana that depends on paranoid tropes from the 1970s. It's like they saw reefer madness in middle school and never got over it. I concede our party is not for the kind of cocaine-fueled orgies that a freshman Republican representative bragged about this week, but we do understand that their marijuana prohibition laws don't work for our people. But in any event, Mr. Speaker, we can all agree that we should not be denying our constituents the opportunity to serve in federal office by denying them security clearance simply because they've used marijuana. I reserve.
Okay, a few things to dig into here, and let's get the obvious one out of the way first. You might have heard some news about the Republicans' cocaine orgy scandal, and if you're wondering what that's in reference to, watch this.
The sexual perversion that goes on in Washington, I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington, but the average age is probably 60 or 70, and I look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to, like, well, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get-together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that, there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove, addiction in our country. And then you watch them do, a key bump of cocaine right in front of you. And it's like, wow, this is wild.
So I think it's a safe bet to assume Madison Cawthorn isn't getting invited to any parties by Democrats, which means that he's suggesting that his own colleagues in his own party are inviting him to coke-fueled orgies. And considering the average age for a Republican congressman is 110, I'm not sure I even want to talk about this anymore. But more importantly, as much as I'd love to dwell on the topic of geriatric Republican orgies, is that today, House Democrats passed the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement, or MORE Act, which decriminalizes marijuana at the federal level and would also require federal courts to expunge prior marijuana convictions and conduct resentencing hearings for those completing their sentence. The vote was 220 to 204, with 202 Republicans voting against the measure, meaning that Republicans almost unanimously opposed yet another measure that is overwhelmingly popular in the United States. Support for legal marijuana in the United States is currently at a record high, with almost 7 in 10 Americans supporting it, including majorities in all political parties. As Jamie Raskin mentioned, it's legal in 18 states and it's been decriminalized in 27 states, including such liberal bastions as Louisiana, Mississippi, and North Dakota. And yet still Republicans oppose it, because for the umpteenth time and on the umpteenth issue, they are out of touch with the American people. I should note that the specific amendment that Jamie Raskin was speaking out in favor of in the preceding video was one that would bar marijuana use as a reason to block a security clearance. Unfortunately, that amendment failed when 12 Democrats joined with almost all Republicans to vote against it. And I don't have to explain why that's utterly absurd beyond saying that we don't bar anyone from getting a security clearance for drinking alcohol, so why arbitrarily do it for someone who uses a substance that is less dangerous? And while most Republicans think this way, even some Democrats are still stuck in this backwards mindset from 40 years ago where somehow marijuana use is some uniquely dangerous drug and we can't trust anyone who's gone near it. But that is completely baseless and wholly unjustifiable. Still, luckily, the broader bill passed the House, so it'll now make its way to the Senate where it needs 60 votes to pass, meaning 10 Republicans have to defect and vote for this bill if it stands any chance of getting to Biden's desk. Unless, of course, the filibuster was eliminated and we had a functional governing majority in the Senate where legislation could pass with 50 votes, in which case there would be a much better chance of this bill becoming law. So if this issue is important to you and you vote Republican or you don't vote at all, just know that only one party is fighting to make this issue a reality. If we can expand Democrat Senate majority from 50 to 52 and get a majority of Democratic senators who support eliminating the filibuster, then bills like this one would have the chance of becoming law. But that's on us this November when we'll be able to flip Senate seats in states like Pennsylvania and Ohio and Wisconsin and Florida and North Carolina. We are so close to finally turning this into a reality, but it requires us staying focused, staying engaged, and showing up in November to see some change. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.